Make no mistake, this has implications beyond chemical warfare. If we won't enforce accountability in the face of this heinous act, what does it say about our resolve to stand up to others who flout fundamental international rules? To governments who would choose to build nuclear arms, to terrorists who would spread biological weapons, to armies who carry out genocide. We cannot raise our children in a world where we will not follow through on the things we say. The accords we sign, the values that define us. So just as I will take this case to Congress, I will also deliver this message to the world. While the UN investigation has some time to report on its findings, we will insist that an atrocity committed with chemical weapons is not simply investigated, it must be confronted. I don't expect every nation to agree with the decision we have made. Privately, we've heard many expressions of support from our friends. But I will ask those who care about the writ of the international community to stand publicly behind our action. And finally, let me say this to the American people: I know well that we are weary of war. We've ended one war in Iraq. We're ending another in Afghanistan. And the American people have. The good sense to know we cannot resolve the underlying conflict in Syria with our military. In that part of the world, there are ancient sectarian differences. And the hopes of the Arab Spring have unleashed forces of change that are going to take many years to resolve. And that's why we're not contemplating putting our troops in the middle of someone else's war. Instead, we'll continue to support the Syrian people through our pressure on the Assad regime. Our commitment to the opposition, our care for the displaced. And our pursuit of a political resolution that achieves a government that respects the dignity of its people. But we are the United States of America. And we cannot and must not turn a blind eye to what happened in Damascus. Out of the ashes of World War, we built an international order and enforced the rules that gave it meaning. And we did so because we believe that the rights of individuals to live in peace and dignity depends on the responsibilities of nations. We aren't perfect, but this nation more than any other has been willing to meet those responsibilities. So to all members of Congress of both parties, I ask you to take this vote for our national security. I am looking forward to the debate. And in doing so, I ask you, members of Congress, to consider that some things are more important than partisan differences or the politics of the moment. Ultimately, this is not about who occupies this office at any given time, it's about who we are as a country. I believe that the people's representatives must be invested in what America does abroad. And now is the time to show the world that America keeps our commitments. We do what? We say. And we lead with the belief that right makes might, not the other way around. We all know there are no easy options. But I wasn't elected to avoid hard decisions. And neither were the members of the House and the Senate. I've told you what I believe, that our security and our values demand that we cannot turn away from the massacre of countless civilians with chemical weapons. And our democracy is stronger when the president and the people's representatives stand together. I'm ready to act in the face of this outrage. Today I'm asking Congress to send a message to the world. That we are ready to move forward together as one nation. Thanks very much. Barack Obama. MLB champion Chicago Cubs White House visit address. Delivered January 17, 2017, Washington, D. C. They said this day would never come. One comma two. Here is something none of my predecessors ever got a chance to say. Welcome to the White House, the World Series champion Chicago Cubs. Now, I know you guys would prefer to stand the whole time, but sit down. I will say to the Cubs, it took you long enough. I mean, I've only got 4 days left. You're just making it under the wire. Now, listen, I made a lot of promises in 2008. We've managed to fulfill a large number of them. But even I was not crazy enough to suggest that during these 8 years we would see the Cubs win the World Series. But I did say that there's never been anything false about hope. Hope. The audacity of hope. Audience member, yes, we can. President Obama, yes, we can. Now, listen, for those of you from Chicago who have known me a long time. It is no secret that there's a certain South Side team that, you know, has my loyalty. For me, the drought hasn't been as long. We had the '85 Bears, we had the Bulls run in the '90s. I've hosted the Blackhawks a number of times. The White Sox did win just 11 years ago with Ozzie and Konerko and Burrell. So I can't claim that I have the same. Just visceral joy of some in this White House. But Flotus is a lifelong Cubs fan. And I will tell you, she had to go to another event. But in 8 years that I've been here, I told the team this in the 8 years that I've been here. We've hosted at least 50 teams: football, basketball, baseball, soccer, you name it. Michelle has never come to a single event celebrating a champion until today. And she came and shook hands and met with every one of these members of the Cubs organization. And told a story about what it meant for her to be able to see them win. Because she remembers coming home from school and her dad would be watching a Cubs game, and the bond and the family. The meaning that the Cubs had for her in terms of connecting with her father, and why it meant so much to her. And I almost choked up listening to it. And it spoke, I think, to how people feel about this organization. And that it's been passed on generation after generation. And it's more than sports. And that is not just true for Flotus. My longest serving aide, Anita Decker Breckenridge, is a Cubs fan. When they fan, is not enough when they won that they next day she said, "This is the best day of my life." And I said, "What about me winning the presidency? What about your wedding day?" She's like, "No, this is the best." My chief speechwriter, Cody Keenan, Cuba fan. In fact, there were a lot of sick days during the playoffs. One of my staff members was caught being interviewed at a bar outside of Wrigley. And we're watching him being interviewed. You remember, Luke? And he's looking kind of sheepish about it. It's like, why aren't you in the office? But look, the truth is, there was a reason, not just that people felt good about the Cubs winning. There was something about this particular Cubs team winning that people felt good about. For example, David Ross and I have something in common: we've both been on a year-long retirement party. But unlike Grandpa, my team has not yet bought me a scooter with a motorized golf caddy. But there are 4 days left, maybe I'll get that. The last time the Cubs won the World Series, Teddy Roosevelt was president. Albert Einstein. Or was it Thomas Edison? Was still alive. The first Cubs radio broadcast wouldn't be for almost 2 decades. We've been through world wars, Cold War, a depression. A space race, all manner of social and technological change. but during that time, those decades were also marked by Phil Cavaretta and Ernie Banks. Billy Williams, who's here today, Ron Santo, Ferg, Ryan Sandberg, Dawson, Maddox, Grace. Those decades were punctuated by Lee Elias rants and Harry Carai's exuberance. Hey, hey. And holy cow. And capped off by Go Cubs Go. So the first thing that made this championship so special for so many is that the Cubs know what it's like to be loyal, and to persevere, and to hope, and to suffer, and then keep on hoping. And it's a generational thing. That's what you heard Michelle describing. People all across the city remember the first time a parent took them to Wrigley. Where memories of climbing into their dad's lap to watch games on WGN, and that's part of the reason, by the way. Why Michelle had made sure that Jose Cardinal was here, because that was her favorite player. And she was describing back then he had a big afro. And she was describing how she used to wear her hat over her afro the same way Jose did. You could see all that love this season in the fans who traveled to their dad's grave sites to listen to games on the radio. Who wore their mom's old jerseys to games. Who covered the brick walls of Wrigley with love notes in chalk to departed fans whose lifelong faith was finally fulfilled.